All right. And we are back with the Blame Girl podcast with
Miss Terry Wayne.
And we got Mac Lawson in the house. Welcome, Mac. Thank you for joining us.
What's up? Thank you for having me.
Not much. How was your weekend?
It was good. I've been traveling a lot, so I pretty much just spent the weekend doing my taxes and binge watching sci-fi.
Where did you travel? Because I saw you somewhere recently, and I bring it up for a reason.
Oh, really? I was in Nashville. And then before I was in Nashville, I know, right after all that stuff happened. And then before Nashville, I was in LA.
Yes, I know you go to LA a lot, but I ask about Nashville because Terry, what did you do this weekend?
I moved to Nashville.
Oh, yeah. I think you had said that. That's so crazy.
I wasn't laughing about the school shooting. I was laughing because I'm in Nashville right now. So
that's crazy.
Just outside.
Terry has left the state. He is in Nashville.
That's how much I hate Ron DeSantis. I was like,
their politics are pretty terrible there, though. So,
I was gonna say, it's all the same.
Yes, yeah. Well, they're nicer though. So,
yes,
they'll take away your rights, but they'll feel bad about it. So
they'll be polite about it.
Yeah, my niece got married on Saturday, which was a big family event here, and makes me feel old because I was there when she was born. So now she's 22, getting married.
Was she born in Nashville?
No, she was born in Boca.
Oh, okay. So she's a Florida girl that's in Tennessee now.
Yes, but she's gotten very much into Jesus and conservative ideologies, so she fits in real well. I'm gonna be the outsider.
Oh wow. Okay. Don't let her watch your podcast.
She knows. They all know. I don't care.
Trinity is a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but we'll get to my Nashville opinions in our
chat.
Our words for white people later.
Okay, good. All right. Well, my weekend was great, guys. Thanks for asking.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But
no one asked yet.
No one cares.
What did you do this weekend?
What did I do this weekend? On Friday, I went to Doghouse Theater. Love that fucking place so much. I'd love it just a little bit more if we could get paid as comedians, but that's the only thing that's missing. That crowd is to die for. And just like the improvers are so nice. Saturday, I went and checked out a show at Brick and Barrel. It's a room I've performed at when Jackie was running it, and now she's running it with CJ, a new local comic, and I was just checking it out. Seems like it's pretty much the same room, same vibe, good crowd, whatnot. And then what?
Oh, I said nice.
Oh, okay. And then Sunday, I didn't do anything at all. I stayed home. Oh no, I'm lying. Sunday, I went to the Del Rey Affair with Minda Mo, and that was a lot of fun. And
it was a fair?
A Del Rey Affair. It's like this, it's like a festival. They just have a bunch of little, it's an art festival. So they have a lot of art. Yeah, it was cool. Nice. I live in Del Rey, and we just walked from my house because it's, I live near the Ave, and it was fun. So, all right. I'm itching to do some blaming. What about y'all?
Yeah, let's get it.
I'm good at blaming.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're good at blaming. We're gonna have some fun. All right. First up, we're talking about South Florida and the biblical proportions of flooding that happened. It was so bad, y'all, that Fort Lauderdale completely shut down the airports, the schools, everything. Who's to blame? Do we just blame Mother Nature, or what do you guys say?
I blame.
You first.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I mean, you could go a lot of different ways with it. I just think the end of the world is coming.
So it was biblical in your.
I think the God's doing it on purpose.
No, I blame every Democrat and every Republican senator and congressman and governor who own stock in fossil fuel companies that continue to hold us back from, trying to at least fix the planet we've damaged. Because
going with climate change, it sounds like.
Yeah, going with climate change.
Yeah. It's not April showers. It always rains.
2 feet of rain in one day is pretty insane.
But still, we live on a coastline. It's geography. Like, the coastlines are gonna wear away. It's gonna rain. It's gonna flood. When you live on a barrier island or near the water, is it not to be expected
that it floods?
I've been living on and off there my entire life, and I've never seen anything like that.
Really?
Nope, never. And I've seen it snow in Broward County, but I have not seen that.
Seen that type of rain. I guess
2 feet of snow in 24 hours? No.
I guess I just don't know that, because when I was younger, I didn't pay really attention to the weather. So now that I'm older, I'm like, is it a lot, or is it the same as when I was a kid? I can't tell.
It is an unbelievable amount. 24 inches of rain in 24 hours is unbelievable.
Do you think that the cities are capable of planning for this? Or is it just all climate change? If the cities plan better with building and doing something to prevent the flooding, there is no
place better.
Infrastructure that's crumbling.
There is no place better for flood control than South Florida. All those locks and channels and all those barriers and abutments, they put all those in to keep the Everglades from flooding in. So you'd be hard pressed to find a better place for water drainage than South Florida. So I don't think there's one single thing the state or local governments could have done to prevent this, other than, trying to reduce our emissions 40 years ago.
Yeah. I found it interesting that the whole airport flooded.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I mentioned my niece's wedding. One of my brother had to change his travel plans because he was supposed to be connecting through there. So
the weather is crazy everywhere, though. It seems like something happened in 2020 where just the whole world just slipped into chaos, especially the weather.
Yeah, in Terry's defense with climate change, they've been sounding this alarm since the 70s.
Oh, since I remember as a kid hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
well, it's not.
And I believed in climate change, and then I remember meeting. This was my first incident with politics, and I didn't even realize it was politics. It was this attorney I worked for in Texas, in Houston, Texas. He was a Republican, and I figured that out because, he's kind of a big, into the scene or whatever. But he was like, "Oh, climate change isn't real." He's like, "It's cyclical," and I was like, "Yo, attorneys can be dumb." I didn't know that.
Yeah, of course they can.
But
well, my thing with that, and I'm politically, I fall in the middle on a lot of stuff. But my thing with it, even for conservatives, it's like, even if you don't believe in climate change, what's the problem with being treating our environment better? Why do you have a problem with us being conscious of how we're treating our environment, even if there was no climate change?
Yeah.
Why can't?
Well, that's a very good question, and there's a very simple answer. It's the same answer that usually happens when people do dumb things for no reason, and it's money, which is why I said every senator and every congressman and every state official that owns, because 54% of Republicans in the House own stocks or some vested interest in fossil fuel, and 39% of Democrats do.
They're all bought out.
Because it's logically, why wouldn't you want clean, renewable energy? Logically.
Yeah, what's the problem with it? Yeah.
Well, think about this.
A political thing. It's obviously,
Well, the first election.
You know what, Terry? it doesn't make any sense for them to fight against it because you can also make money if you go clean. So
Well, they're starting to
look
figure
at
that out.
Elon Musk.
They're
Yeah.
starting to figure that out now.
Yeah.
But which is why they're building a huge Ford is building a huge plant right here in Tennessee, between Nashville and Memphis, that will only make electric vehicles.
Oh, nice. Good job, Ford.
Yeah.
And
Well, but that's before we start patting ourselves on the back, just remember the first patent for an electric motor for an electric vehicle came from 1976. So let's not pat ourselves on the back just yet.
When they were saying that climate was changing in 1976. But guys, speaking of Tennessee, I want to pivot back to that. We've been talking about Tennessee for a couple of weeks on the podcast. As you know, they kicked out some Democratic members, and that was a whole big thing. Last week, they got let back in. But this week, the Tennessee Speaker, Sexton, he had a bad week this week. Who's to blame, guys? And let me just give you a little background. It was revealed that he does not live in the district that he represents. He sold his house in the district that he represents, bought an apartment or a condo, basically has a home in Nashville living in Justin Jones's district. And he was also taking per diems for hotels while he owned $1 million house in Nashville, 5 minutes from the capital. And it was revealed this week he has a mistress. Y'all, who's to blame?
The hotels reporter.
Politics isn't for everybody. And if you got a bunch of skeletons in your closet, maybe go work in the private sector.
Or just be honest about them.
Well, you can't be honest about all that, about being corrupt and, cheating on your wife without, serious consequences. So maybe just stay out of politics. So he's to blame. Should have never gotten the game.
I'm going to have a different point of view on this one. Go ahead.
No, it's your turn.
Go ahead.
I think we got to start blaming ourselves, because we need to more people need to start holding politicians accountable, just in general, both parties. And I think people are so afraid to talk about politics because they're afraid that they're going to lose a friend, they're going to have an uncomfortable conversation. But I think what it really comes down to is both sides need to start holding our representatives more accountable in general, just with everything.
Absolutely.
I agree. Except for the part about losing friends, I don't care. If you're willing to walk out on me because of a belief
politics,
that I have, then I don't want you around anymore.
Yeah, I always said that. I feel like, that saying where they're like, you should keep your politics private, and you keep your religion private and keep your politics out, because I want to know who I'm dealing with. And maybe if you keep your politics out, I won't be your friend to begin with if I know you're willing to be someone that's this corrupt, or that's gonna fight,
or closed-minded.
Fight against my interests, or just in it for the money. Like, and if you like that, then tell me, at least if you're my friend. Just be like, look, I'm just making money, whatever.
Right.
I will think less of you, but at least I'll be like, they're honest to me.
At least you know what you're dealing with.
They're honest about their corruption and greed. So
to me, politics, so I have a family of politicians and on my mom's side. And to me, politics just reminds me of two divorcing parents fighting in court. And it's like my parents.
Oh, wow. Why? Because they had opposite politics?
Well, no, my parents had the same politics, but my parents, it was a 10-year-long divorce. And it was like, I would always be able to see both sides, or like what point they were trying to make.
Oh, with your parents. Okay.
And my parents, and it's kind of like a lot of my political beliefs are that way as well, because it's kind of like, I see that, what you're trying to say, but like you're saying it the wrong way, or I see what you see from your experience, but there's like a middle ground somewhere, but you guys are just too busy arguing. So you just never find it. That's how I view it.
Did you say their divorce took 10 years?
Terry can relate to that. Terry is a moderate as well. And
yeah, that's what I am.
He used to be a conservative. I mean, he's from Tennessee.
Yeah.
I was a conservative. Well, I wasn't a conservative. I was a Republican. Never really been that conservative. even as a Republican,
very
I believe.
different. Like whatever. But
Yes, there is.
I'm very far left. But what's crazy to me is, yo, I'm not even far left enough from some people that then cut me off down the line. It's just crazy. And it'd be like white people that don't even think I'm fighting against black rights enough. And I'm like,
what? You can't say that. Get out of here, bitch.
no, that happened.
What?
That happened. So,
no, I'm saying they can't say that to you. That's crazy.
But nonetheless, back to Tennessee. Do you think this all came out because of how the Justins were treated? And now that they're back in office, like the tides are turning. So now because like part of the reveal with like the mistress was anonymous. So anonymous is dropping shit on everybody. Like today we found out about the Epstein flight list, right?
What?
So, yes, bitch. That's out. We're gonna talk about that next week. But yes, the Epstein flight list came out, and of course, we found out that Donald Trump took multiple trips, but with Ivanka. Okay, but what another I found out was like all these people across the world are taking trips, but in America, there were a lot of Clinton affiliates taking these trips. A lot of Clinton affiliates. It's crazy. So.
Yeah, but just because you rode on Epstein's plane doesn't mean you were screwing kids. You
on the flight list, Terry?
No, I'm just trying to be logical.
But you at least knew what was going on. I mean, come on, these people know what's going on.
If I knew somebody that was a billionaire,
included like masseuses on there, like
it had. But they knew what was going on too. They probably had to sign an NDA.
Everybody knew it had like the cleaners. It was very meticulous. He did that for a reason, though. He did it for the reason. Wasn't it something to do with the IDF? Is what I've heard, but I don't know. Anyway,
that's for next week, I guess.
Yeah. Back to this. So the Justins got reinstated, and like all this stuff starts coming out about the speaker, and he fought against getting them, back. Yeah.
So I'm saying it's just like I feel like I'm reliving my childhood every time I turn on the news. It's like you did this, I'm gonna do this back, and it's like, how about you guys just like fix our roads?
He just wants roads.
It's the fucking school, and their idea of fixing schools is they have solutions, but their solutions is like give the teachers guns. So that's the problem. People in Congress are trying to fix stuff, but there's people that are actively trying to maintain the status quo and keep their pockets lined. Basically, that's
exactly what it is. It's all that money through lobbying. Citizens United.
Speaking of lobbying, his mistress is a lobbyist. The speaker's mistress is a lobbyist.
Of course.
Lobbyist. And she is the wife of one of the governor's officials.
Wow.
Yeah. I just hope that they're wearing protection, guys, because STDs are at record levels.
Yeah.
And they may get worse. Who's to blame?
The elderly. the elderly are to blame.
The elderly?
Why are you blaming the elderly?
Because the elderly, believe it or not, are the largest group of STIs and STDs in the country, with documented STIs and STDs. All those, the villages in Orlando, Century Village, all these retirement communities.
You're cracking jokes. That is not.
No, I'm not. My hand to God. My hand to God.
You didn't even read the show prep.
What?
You didn't even read the show. Back, what do you got?
I did. I'm saying.
He just came up with. He's like.
No, I'm seriously saying.
Pull that out your ass.
No, I did not. I am seriously. Go look it up. Google it. It's worth a Google.
I sent you an article about it, Terry. It don't say that
because they are constantly having sex all the time. I know nobody wants to think about it, but they are. And most of them, because of the way they grew up and the fact that they can't get pregnant, most of them do not use protection at all. So all it takes is one case of gonorrhea, one case of chlamydia, and it spreads like a wildfire. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's the elderly, 100%. They have the lion's share of all sexually transmitted diseases in the country.
Okay.
And
there
when
goes
you
me
think
getting a
about
sugar
it,
daddy.
when you think about it, it makes sense because they weren't doing that during the pandemic because they were in a high risk group. But then once
Now
everybody
they're
got
hornier than
vaccinated,
ever.
Terry is so serious.
then
Okay,
when
Terry.
everybody got vaccinated, they're back in these streets and hitting
They're
them
back,
sheets.
they're
That's
back
what's,
in these streets. I think it's
Yep.
cheating men. I think we got to blame cheating men.
no, that's who you want to blame. There's no evidence behind that.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's who I want to blame.
I don't
It's
know
these
that
old
either of
people
y'all
fucking.
Neither one of y'all were at the show prep, okay? Because that
I
is
did read
not
the
what
show
the
prep. I have little else to do.
basically, folks, if you want to learn something, it's a district judge, he overturned some of the protections for HIV treatments that
Oh,
the CARE Act provided. And you know, people have a tendency not to treat themselves or deal with STDs if it's not free. So
yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I think that might have something to do with it, that they're trying to, and what I don't understand is why are y'all fighting against STDs, conservatives? Like what?
Yeah, they don't want you to have sex.
STDs?
They don't want you to do anything. They're unrealistic.
Well,
they don't want you to have sex.
And like
I don't
Terry
know how
said,
you-
it's all the old people. They should want it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you equate. The taking away an FDA approval for an AIDS for an HIV treatment. HIV is one of the least common STDs. It's the most deadly, but it's one of the least common.
No, I don't think they're taking away the FDA. It's just one of the perks. There's this drug called PrEP, right? And
Yes, I've seen the commercials.
if you ever get STD tests, they'll be like pushing it, you know, like if you're having a partner, they like it just makes it so that it's undetectable and all. And I don't know why we would even fight against this or take this away from people, but it just goes to show that they just don't have our best interest at heart, period. They don't care if you die of AIDS, they don't care if you die of gun wounds, they don't care how you die.
Yeah.
They want you to have babies and make more lives. It just doesn't fucking make any sense to me.
Well, that's why that Texas judge took off the FDA approval for the abortion pill as well.
Yeah.
Same reason. Meanwhile, the number one cause of death of children in America is gun violence. That's the number one cause, more than cancer, more than car accidents, more than anything else.
Damn, that's
Isn't that
crazy.
sad?
That's awful.
Mm-hmm. So whenever you hear a politician say,
not just school
we need to
shootings,
protect,
accidents.
whenever you say that we need to protect our kids from drag queens or transgenders or LGBTQ, or we need to protect kids from, talks about sexuality or slavery or all these things, just know it's completely full of shit, because the one thing they actually need protection from, nobody's doing anything about it.
Okay.
It's the height of hypocrisy.
I gotta say this. I'm transitioning, just FYI, in case any of you had anything else to say on this topic.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm gonna
transitioning topics. I'm transitioning.
I usually just transition, but then Terry would be like, "Oh, I wasn't done. I was just giving you an opportunity." But what I was saying is,
I was gonna say something just about that topic. Again, like I'm very middle of the ground politically, so I don't lean either way. I just try to see what both parties are saying and think if I can find a logical middle ground. And for the people who oppose, like gun restrictions, my question would be, what's wrong with following, like making there be more of a training or more of a procedure to get a gun? And my problem is people can never find a middle ground on these topics that actually might work.
Well, actually, we used to have one. We used to have a middle ground, because when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, all throughout the 90s until the early 2000s, we actually had an assault weapons ban. You were not allowed to personally own assault weapons. The cops had them for the SWAT teams, and then the Army had them for war, and that was it. When they lifted that ban since in the 20 years since they lifted that ban, mass shootings have gone up by 72%. It's not a hard problem to figure out. We know exactly what the problem is. We're just not willing to do anything about it because some people love their guns more than they love their kids.
I think they just, well, let's move to the next topic.
No, I was gonna say we've got our boy Jason in the chat, and he's got some comments.
I'm sure he does. And by the way, those comments from me, Jason, that's coming from a gun owner. I've been a gun owner my whole life, but I don't need one that kills 50 people in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He says, okay, this is a bunch of comments.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. He said, oh, this is back to the STD. Old people knew the pandemic was BS and it's just political bioterror.
What?
Yeah. If STDs are real and vaccines are real, how come there's no vaccines against STDs?
There are actually.
Yeah.
You can get vaccinated against what's the one that causes cervical cancer?
Yeah.
I think that they're corrupt.
That is corrupt. I know Rick Perry pushed that and his sister profited off of it, but that's a whole. Okay, he says, yay, Terry, make babies. And then he says, he says, blame is going to trans to a man. I guess I'm saying
you.
Man.
When you said I'm transitioning, that's why.
Yeah, that's where he took it. Transitioning topics, man.
Where did he get that from?
Transitioning to a new story, not to a new gender.
And then he says, what the fuck is with my shirt tonight? It looks like a Walmart scooter racer. I am a Texan and this is Buc-ee's. If you don't know about Buc-ee's, you're trash. I don't know what to tell you.
I know about Buc-ee's and I think you're trash for liking it.
Why?
Because it's Walmart with gas pumps. That's all it is.
It didn't start off like that. I'm Buc-ee's from day one. I'm a day one Buc-ee's.
All right. You OG Buc-ee's. Got it.
I'm a day one Buc-ee's. All right. I don't even know how to transition into this one. I had a good one. That's why I was going to transition early, but it don't work like that, folks. Sometimes transition weird, right?
Roll how we roll.
Artificial intelligence has shook many entertainers this week. First of all, they got songs out here that Drake are singing that are by Ice Spice. You got a fake Joe Rogan podcast. Who's to blame, guys? Why the fuck is this happening?
I don't necessarily think it could be all bad.
Because human beings are designed. We are destined to destroy ourselves. And
Max says, I don't think it could be all bad. And Terry's like, we're destroying ourselves.
No, we are destined to destroy ourselves. We do things and we justify them with whatever we need to do the things that we want to do. And then we justify them after the fact and say, well, we didn't know any better. Yeah, you did. You knew about climate change back in the 70s. You knew about gun violence when you lifted the ban. You know all these things, but you just don't want to. Just admit it. Just have the balls to sack up and say, yeah, I don't give a shit about the next generation and I'm going to do what I do. And that's that.
I
just wish because AI is definitely going to eventually usurp human beings. I don't know where we go from there. Automation took most of these jobs, took most of the jobs away from the middle class through either shipping them overseas or mainly through automation. That took a lot of jobs away when we learned how to automate our manufacturing. And that's what AI is going to do. What's that?
I hate the robots on the phone calls, man. It's so annoying.
Yeah, I know. But that's it's all in the they all say it's part of the greater good. No, it's not. It's about padding corporate profits. We're all dealing with inflation right now. Almost 40% of inflation is down to corporate profits. They brag about it. They love it. They talk about it all the time during their stock pitches, how much they're making since the pandemic.
I want to hear how Mac thinks this is a good thing.
I mean, everything it can be good or bad depending on how you look at it and depending on what you do with it. I mean, I guess it just depends on who gets their hands on this technology and how it's how it's used, whether it's used to better the world, to make things easier, to help people, progress or not. I don't think it's going to replace artists, because at the end of the day, even listening to the song, something felt not human about them. I would never listen to a song that I knew was done by AI.
Yeah, that's the problem. If you knew it was done by AI, I'm worried a little bit because, I'm in the legal field and we draft a lot of stuff, and one of my assistants, he uses the chat GPT to like kind of
make a document
going, and that's okay, but it just feels so dirty to me. And I know that an AI, I'm smarter than an AI. I know more about the law than the robot on the other end that's drafting this pleading. So it's a little scary. But then in entertainment, are we gonna have to compete with comedians that are getting their jokes that chat GPT writes them,
Oh yeah.
They haven't gotten to humor yet, but I will say this, it's not about the AI that we have right now, because like you said, it's flawed. You can kind of see when you look at the AI generated pictures, you can always kind of tell because it's having trouble doing faces and hands and this and that. And you can always kind of tell, but that's not where the problem comes in. The problem comes in is 5 years from now, when it's evolved, when it's gotten better, when it's gotten more perfected. That's when you're going to have a problem.
The problem is, you go first.
But it is coming, because
I was just gonna say, real quick, Jason says he has AI friends.
Okay. Awesome.
But they asked AI to like destroy humanity, and it started trying to.
And it probably will one day,
It ran into some roadblocks. It's like, I'm going to do it this way and try to influence people this way. But no,
my problem with it is that if something has come out to us, the general public, I believe that the governments have had their hands on it for quite a while. So my problem with it would be it getting into the wrong hands. But you think about like the internet, people were terrified of the internet when it first came out.
Yeah.
People were terrified of it. So I guess it just depends on, it's just new problems that we have to conquer. I think that's kind of a pattern throughout humanity as we evolve.
Well, we'll start regulating it, but not until we find out that some Muslims are using it. Once we find out the Muslims are using it, then the Pentagon will be all over it.
I think we'll regulate it. From what I know about the government, we'll regulate it when we can use it to our advantage.
Oh, well, we're doing that now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that right now.
When regulating it will be our advantage.
As soon as some brown people with a different religion start using it, yes, they will crack down on it pretty hard, pretty fast.
It's saying that on TikTok that AI is going to generate more millionaires than ever before. And I'm just like,
people on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to hurt everybody when that happens, because anybody who knows anything.
It's going to hurt everybody because it's going to fuck
yeah, anybody who knows anything about economics could already tell you, the more millionaires and billionaires we have, the more people who aren't millionaires and billionaires are going to suffer. Because that's how prices go up. That's how inflation goes up. That's how property values go up. It always comes.
But what do you do? Do you just say, fuck it, then I'm just going to have to do what I can to try to become a millionaire? Or do you just say...
No, all you have to do is look at the French Revolution. All you have to do is look at the French Revolution, and you'll figure out what's going to happen. Because when the upper echelons get so powerful, so wealthy, have so much, and leave so little to the rest, they start chopping off heads, and that's what's going to happen. Eventually, we're going to eat the rich.
I think what shook me more than anything was the podcast, the Joe Rogan podcast. I think I was like, what? They can just make a fake podcast like that? That's crazy.
That's weird. Yeah. I don't know. I think it just also depends too on how you look at things. I guess I'm too optimistic.
No,
I may be too pessimistic.
That's not a bad thing, Mac.
Yeah, I mean, even like through the pandemic, it was obviously at first I had like a couple mental breakdowns, but then I'm like, all right, in what ways can I use this situation to better my life once we get out of it? And I think that if more people just looked at things with a more problem solving perspective, then maybe AI won't be so bad.
Well,
But
see, that's why I like being pessimistic, because people got it all backwards. They think you're happy when you're optimistic. No, when you're happy, I mean, when you're optimistic, you're always worried that something's going to take that happiness.
I'm
Well,
not
hang
worried
on.
about shit.
No,
You
no, I'm
ain't the
saying
happiest.
you're always
You ain't
worried
the
something's
happiest
going to
damn
take that
crayon in the
happiness
box
away.
there.
But
Shut
when
up.
you're, I mean, I'll finish and then you can respond. But when you're pessimistic, right, you always assume everything's going to go badly. But then when it doesn't always go badly, it actually makes you happy. You're like, oh, okay, I was wrong. Everything isn't going to go to shit.
Yeah,
But
No,
you
that's
plan better when you're
that's like
pessimistic.
that's
I can
like
still plan and be positive. I
That's
plan,
like
but
this is like religion. Like you gamble on having faith or not. Like you gamble on being pessimistic or optimistic, and whatever works for each individual works for that individual.
exactly.
I like a mix of both.
Well, good, because you got it right here.
All right. So Jason wants us to read these jokes he made on the chat GPT.
I would really rather not, but go ahead.
I'll read one.
God.
It says verse 1, chorus. I don't know. Okay, it seems long.
If it's
Okay,
good, I'm going to steal it. Just kidding.
first one, Jamie Lee Curtis is a star that is tough. Mixing her with Gene Simmons is quite enough to hear the mad rapper get. I've heard enough, Jason. This is not.
Yeah, this is garbage. This is
We're
garbage.
good. We're good. See, I told you. No one's taking my
You're
job.
right. It has no sense of humor. I'm not reading anymore. Yeah, it was a no for me, dog. It was a no for me, dog. Okay. All right. It's time to have fun and welcome our guest formally, comedian Mac Lawson. Thank you for
That's
joining.
neat. Yeah, thank you for having me.
So how long have you been a comedian?
I got started in late 2018, so right before COVID.
Oh,
Yeah, so I went on stage for like 3 or 4 months, and then we had the lockdowns. So that year was more of like social media stuff for comedy, but it's about 3 or 4 years.
how did you get started? Where did you start? Like some of us took classes, some of us
Yeah.
went to open mics, some were actors and then moved in. Like how did you get started?
Well, I'm actually like naturally I'm more like self-conscious. So I wasn't somebody who ever thought I could be a comedian. I would pretend to be Chelsea Handler as a kid and have like a late night talk show. But I didn't really have the confidence to ever think I could do something like that. But when I was living in LA, I actually got a traumatic brain injury. And it was just bad enough that I was struggling every day, but just okay enough that I didn't have to go stay in some facility or something or have help. So one of the ways that I kind of coped with what I was going through was joking on social media and just kind of like venting. And that was how I got into stand up. People just thought I was hilarious.
And then you went out and did open mics or?
Yeah, well, I was already living in LA, and this guy invited me to this open mic. I did the open mic, and then I'm really big into manifesting. And one night I was like, just thinking to myself, man, I just really hope I can get on some sort of show regularly. And then the next day I got a phone call, and at the place that I worked, they started doing this really big comedy show, and I was able to do 5 minutes every month on that.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Doing comedy in LA is a lot different. Our boy, Brian Drolet, he's back out there now. He comes to Florida sometimes and he does comedy out there. And it's like, you got to pay for mics and it's just so many, it's so saturated.
Very saturated, but they fall off.
That's because every time I've performed in LA, I've always run into the same thing. You're not just dealing with stand-ups and you're not just dealing with comedians, because you're dealing with actors, you're dealing with models, you're dealing with these people, and they just got an agent or they got a publisher or a publicist, and they say, oh, go do some comedy so we can put it on your CV and it'll, it makes you look broader, this and that. So basically you got a lot of posers taking up spots on the stage that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stay in your lane, people.
From my time there to now, it's a lot of people start to do it and then you give them a year or two and they're done. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, I've been in it for just about 5 years, and I've noticed that, and that's what people will say. Like, some of the older people that have been doing it, when I met them, they were kind of like, hey, they barely talked to me, and I was like, yo, what's up? And they were like, well, people come in and out. We never know how long.
Yeah. How long you're gonna stay?
That's, you know what? That's in every scene though. I've seen that in South Florida for 10 years. I watch people come and go and come and go and come and go. But since LA scene is so saturated, it's so much bigger. It just seems like it's more, but I bet you the percentages are about the same. You know, when you account for how big the scene is versus how many people are just drifting.
Yeah. And I don't feel like the scene there is that big, but maybe it's because I got started there. But I think it's just because maybe I just don't pay attention to people that I know don't matter.
Oh, the scene there is huge. I did 5 shows in one night there.
Yeah. I mean, no, there's definitely a lot more, but I don't know.
I don't know how often you do comedy in Florida. I know we were on a show together before, but what do you have a favorite venue here to perform at? And you can't say,
well, you can't say the Improvs, but you can say it doesn't have to be in Florida. It can be anywhere in the country.
And
if you have a Florida one, let us know that too.
I like performing in front of big crowds. I mean, I guess everybody does, but maybe not too big, but somewhere in the middle.
That's why we're like, you can't say the Improv because it's like, you know,
it's too easy.
And people who came to the venue to see comedy. There's a big difference between a crowd that is at a bar and just there happened to be comedy going on, and people who bought tickets to come laugh at you. Comedy clubs and those, and you know, also just I'm starting to get bougie to the point where I don't like to do shitty shows anymore. Like, don't book me on your shitty show. I don't like it. It's not fun. I don't want to have to work. Like, I mean, I know, like, I want to work a crowd that wants to laugh. I don't want to convince somebody to have a good time. So, definitely, I'm trying to, Corey, I did his show and I fucking crushed it. He's in Fort Lauderdale.
You don't know the room? I know he has, or I don't know if it's still going, but he had that room. It's called Flamingo Room.
Yes, that was one. Flamingo Room. I just want to say that. Yeah, it was a great crowd. I mean, and they just laughed. I like when a crowd can laugh. And to be honest,
because I'll say every time I've been at the Flamingo Room, I felt like the crowd was tight. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But see, I couldn't disagree with you more on this one. There, I don't know. What do you prefer, Mac or Jamie?
Mac, yeah.
Okay. But because your name's on the bottom of the thing here. But
it's not me. Yeah, sorry.
Oops. But no, I learned over the years. I would have agreed with you probably 5-6 years ago, but it is, at least to me, this is just my opinion. It is way more satisfying for me to go into a room, like you said, where they're not there for that, and you turn them and you make them there for that. You know, it's just so satisfying to be like, you didn't even want me here. Now you don't want me to leave, you know?
Yeah, it can be satisfying, but that doesn't mean I enjoy it more. I enjoy
that's like hooking up with the hot girl that didn't even look in your direction, but you worked at it and you got it, you know? Like,
all right.
I just like walking up to a hard guy and just fucking him right there. I don't want to have to work for it.
You're taking the easy route. You got
it. Where have you traveled to do comedy?
I did do
LA, obviously.
I did do some comedy in Texas.
Where in Texas?
Awesome.
In Dallas. I opened up for Steve Trevino for a weekend.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. It just happened. It was like very awesome that it happened. And then I'll be doing some more traveling this year. To be quite honest, I haven't traveled a lot in my comedy. I want to really get my feet under me before I try to do these bigger shows, which I think I'm at the point now where I can do it. But because of COVID, there was like 2 years, a year and a half where I wasn't even going on stage. So it's like, I was barely even a comic then. Yeah. So now I feel like I'm at the point where I can go on a stage. I know what I'm doing. So this year you'll see me a lot, traveling a lot.
Do you have a favorite moment that you've had during comedy, or a proudest moment?
Yeah, I just won my first roast battle at the Comedy Store.
What?
Nice.
Bitch.
Nice.
At the Comedy Store. Who did you?
I was gonna ask you about that during the open period, but whether you'd performed at the store while you were out there.
Yeah, I mean, when I first lived there, I only had like 4 months, but I did perform with some big comics in that first show that I was on. I had no business being on that show, man. But
cares? You got the opportunity. That's what matters.
Yeah, I could do it. I could do it. So now I performed at the Haha a couple of times. I did the roast battle at the Comedy Store, and we'll see what happens this year. But yeah, I was so nervous because I love roast battle. The guys at roast battle kind of know who I am because I'm such a big fan of it. So I just really didn't.
Roasting, huh? You like roasting, huh?
Yeah, and I just didn't want to look like a dumb girl. So I'm like, oh, like, let me make sure that I do this. And then when I won, I was like, okay, hell yeah.
Brought the heat then.
Oh, I love roast battles. In fact, me and Elgin David, we put on the first roast battles in South Florida ever.
Oh, wow.
Those were great. Oh, it was so fun. But yeah, that was because the first time I got to perform at the Comedy Store, that was my proudest moment in comedy, because I knew the history and knew all about it. With Mitzi Shore and everything, and everybody got rejected, everybody got put on the list.
Yeah.
So for me getting up on that stage, it was just like definitely my proudest moment. What was your proudest moment in comedy?
It was
the roast battles.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think if there are any other ones. I don't know. I think I'm proud of. I've only been doing it a few years, including COVID. That just barely counts as a year. And then also before that, I wasn't into improv or like acting or anything like that. So I think I'm just proud in general of how kind of quickly I've progressed. I mean, some people might, not like my stand up or something like that, but I'm proud of how far I've come. It's in general.
What's been your biggest challenge doing comedy?
I really just don't want to just go for the cheap laughs. I don't want to have a set that,
she's like,
yeah. I don't want to just talk about my pussy like on stage, and that's fine if other people want to do it, but I really like to make people a little bit uncomfortable. So, I like joking about things that make people uncomfortable. And, I just joke about political stuff. I make fun of myself a lot. I make fun of white people a lot. I'm excited to hear your rant. And I think it's just important to be able to laugh at stuff. And so I think that's like the main thing that I try to focus on, is just having like thought-provoking sets that are actually funny, that aren't just, woohoo, my pussy and I fucked all these stuff.
I couldn't agree with you more on this one. Yeah. I always say, when you joke about something, the worse the topic, the more you should joke about it, because that's how you take the power out of something.
Exactly. Yes.
If I make a joke about cancer, it's because I'm taking the power away from that.
Yes.
From that terrible thing. We all know it's a terrible thing, but we don't have to treat it like it's Voldemort, and we can't even say its name.
Exactly.
We all know rape's a terrible thing.
Sometimes you write good blowjob jokes. I'm just saying.
No, of course. Oh my God, this cat's playing with my foot. No, of course. I think just for me, and also, you look at like my Instagram and like I'm half naked on it and stuff. And so I just don't want to get
I've checked it out. Yeah.
I just don't want to get put in a box. Whitney Cummings does it really well. She's hot.
Me and my wife checked it out together. We think they're hot. That's fine.
Relax. Were you the guys the ones on my OnlyFans the other night?
No, but now I
look them up when you're in Nashville. Okay, what were you?
There's no nudity.
There's no nudity. Then never mind. I'm not going. That's. I don't pay for nothing.
No, we've talked about this, right?
We've talked about it.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about you as an individual. Like, who are you? Do you want to give us your name? You like your real name? Is this your real name? If not, that's fine. Where are you from? What's your day job? Do you have family, kids? Do you have any other projects, podcasts? Tell us about you.
Well, I am from Virginia Beach, Virginia. So 757. I grew up, my dad was a drummer. My mom homeschooled us. I was a pretty high level gymnast. I was a level 10 gymnast. And all four of us were gymnasts. And despite having like a very mostly financially stable upbringing, just lived in a really, really kind of sick and toxic household. Not to get super morbid, but and just was the oldest, just went through a lot of trauma. And I think that's kind of what I didn't know it at the time, but I think that was kind of my segue into comedy, even though it didn't happen until a lot later. And yeah, so I just had a fun 20s, just did whatever I wanted in my 20s. And I really do believe that my purpose is stand-up comedy. And I think it's a great way to bring people together. And besides my comedy stuff, the main thing, I might be building an app. I'm trying to build an app, but I can't say what it's about.
You got to diversify your income. Don't you have podcasts?
I have a podcast. We're 3 episodes in. It's called Mac After Dark. And it's funny because I used to want to be Chelsea Handler when I was a kid. And I used to pretend to do Chelsea Lately in my room. And so that's kind of where Mac After Dark came from. It's a podcast now, but I would love for it to segue into like a late night sketch comedy show.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So are you ready to play the blame game?
Okay. Yeah. What is that? Okay. I'm ready.
So I do follow you on social media, and you said that you really love Miami, like one of your favorite places to be.
Yes.
Who's to blame? Why did you say that?
Well, I used to really love LA until the pandemic. And most of it is because of the homelessness. And I just like, I can't stomach the homeless. So who do I think's to blame? I think all of the politicians, and not like can't stomach. Some people just walk by them dead on the street every day.
It makes you sad. Like I get it makes you very sad, and that's a hard state of being to be in constantly. So
no, what I'm saying is I really can't stomach it. I can't live with it. When you live in LA and you are walking by dead bodies, that affects you. And if it doesn't affect you, then there's something wrong with you. Yeah. And so when I say I can't stomach it, I mean, I was powerless living there through the pandemic, and it was so depressing. And so I think the politicians, both parties are to blame in California for that, for not doing anything. And I moved to Miami, and it was just so similar to LA pre-pandemic.
So you think you're saying the homelessness has gotten worse since the pandemic?
1,000%.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of keeps me away. I've been to LA like a long time ago in my 20s, way before I was a comedian, and I'm gonna go. Like it's on my places to visit. I want to go this year because I got a friend, like I say, my boy Brian Jolet. He's out there. And I'm a comedian. I want to go out there and do comedy.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I ever want to live there. A lot of comics, they're like, "Oh, you got to move to New York, LA to get work." And I don't know that I agree with that. I feel like I don't know what I can do, but if I really go somewhere that's popping, I can go back to Austin. I'm from there, and it's popping.
Austin's the new LA.
I can move right back to Austin, except without the homeless, because they did something to get them all, because they were doing that there in Austin. Like there were tent cities.
Oh, you don't know what they did?
They built something, right?
No, they bought out old hotels.
Yeah. Oh, they bought out
old hotels and just stuck them in there.
Well, that's good. Living in hotels?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically just assigned them homes, you know.
They got places to live, so that's something. But all right. Do you want to give out your like how can people follow you? Do you have a website, your OnlyFans even?
Yeah. There's no nudity on OnlyFans, but there's still fun pics. But I'm pretty much Big Mac Lawson on everything. At Big Mac Lawson on YouTube, TikTok, OnlyFans, Instagram, and then Facebook, and then I do music as well. I do comedy music, and my artist name is Big Mac with 2 C's.
It's rap, huh?
Yeah, some of it is like funny. Some of it's like really annoying comedy, but some of it's pretty good. And I'm gonna be creating more this year.
That's really awesome. I mean, everybody, there's a market for it all. So I haven't seen that. That's unique. So that keep that up.
I want to be like Little Dicky, but a girl.
Do it.
Yeah.
All right. Terry, do you have words for white people this week?
Oh, yes. Me and the honkies. We're going to get into it this week. Listen up, crackers, because I feel like this is sometimes we do words for white people. Sometimes we do words for all people. Sometimes we do words for women or men or whatever. Nope. This is just for you whites this time. And we're going to talk about the division. All I have to say the word division. We all know exactly what I'm talking about. The whole country's turned into red or blue. Even when I was moving back home to my home state of Tennessee, even people, including BlameGirl here, said, "Oh, well, you're going into the backwoods. You're going into the lion's den, the mouth of the beast. This is where they're taking drag shows out of making laws against, and it's all part of the same problem." Okay. I'm a registered independent, and I had this same conversation over the weekend because I saw my family at my niece's wedding, and most of them are pretty conservative. Most of them are Donald Trump supporters. Most of them have taken that red pill.
Even after they ripped your family off. I'm sorry.
But we can still talk. We can still have a discussion. And I even told them this. I'm an independent voter. You're supposed to be. Where is the swooning? Where is the trying to convince me of your way? When did it all just become, if you're not with us, you're an enemy. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be trying to win me over, both sides. And I say that because my Democrat friends, my liberal friends, did the exact same thing. They're like, "Oh, you're going to go up there and switch to the other side." What side? I'm in the middle. Come get me. Talk to me and tell me why you think you're right and I'm wrong. And if you're intelligent and you make good points, you might win me over. But we're not enemies to one another. We just have different thoughts on the way our lives should be and the way our country should be regulated. And I don't agree with most conservative values. I just don't. I think most of them are dumb, and it's all culture war bullshit that doesn't really matter and doesn't affect your day-to-day lives. I don't think anybody here in this suburb of Nashville that I'm living in, really has to worry about whether a transgendered, woman is going into the bathroom with their child. It's not a huge problem. It's only a huge problem because they put it on television so they can fill 24-hour news cycles, make people infuriated, use your anger and your fear and everything against you so that you'll keep tuning in. They can keep selling their advertisements, keep making their money. That's all it is. Stop being used. Look at your neighbor and do what Americans have always done, which is regardless of what you feel, stick together. Stop looking at your neighbor as your enemy. The only people who can fix the divide in this country are the same fucking ones who made it, and that's us. And when I say us, I mean you honkies. Because most of my Latin friends and most of my Black friends couldn't give a shit less. So, other than BlameGirl here. So, we broke it. We got to fix it.
All right. Thank you for your words for white people this week. Mac, you want to say something to that? You got something to say back?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we should. It's the little person versus the big people. So let's stop fighting each other and start fighting the ones who are pushing us down. Let's find a common ground.
They keep us fighting each other over politics so that we won't fight them over money.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because they got it all and we want some of it.
We fighting them over money too, bitch. Like we know.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
BlameGirl is. All right. Do either of y'all have anything coming up this week you want to promote?
I do. I will be in New York City from Thursday to Sunday. You can catch me at the Comic Strip Live and Stand Up New York.
Kill it, Terry. That's what's up. You're already taking trips. That's funny. All right. What about you, Mac? You got anything coming up or your podcast dropping or anything?
Yeah, I got podcasts dropping, but for the most part, I'm just taking it easy. I need a little break.
All right. You were on a podcast tonight. Where
Their podcast, it's Two Girls, One Blunt. They're like my best friends. They're the
Two
best.
Girls, One Blunt podcast. I guess it'll be out soon.
Mhm.
I will be at the Palm Beach Improv hosting the New Faces on Wednesday. And then on Saturday, I'll be at the Bark Republic downtown West Palm Beach. It'll be a
Nice.
lot of fun. So come out, come see me. Until next week, guys.